Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football late Monday night. Jonathan Smith and the Michigan State Spartans getting some momentum in the transfer portal, landing three separate commitments. We're going to break them down and then just largely talk about the approach Jonathan Smith has had in the transfer portal, then kind of talk about where this program is going. A ton of optimism. Many Michigan State fans who've been rocking with the boys the last couple of weeks, y'all know how high I am on Jonathan Smith and what he can do in East Lansing. And I largely see these transfer portal additions as just some building blocks. And Jonathan Smith is a program builder, and he's working to get Michigan State back to where it belongs. And there is not a coach I have more trust in to do that than Jonathan Smith. Really fired up to get into it. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. A shout out to the Michigan State fans. We're best friends with the Michigan State fan. He is so locked in to Michigan State right now. He's very excited, always texting us with the commitment updates. It's been a blast to talk ball with him.
There is nothing better than getting a new coach you can be excited about in college football.
100%. And our buddy's been absolutely living it up. It's been a blast to talk about. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, the Michigan State fans, you guys have been showing a ton of love to the boys. Can't thank you guys enough. Dill, I'm going to kick this one off to you. Let's start with Jack Velling, Oregon State tight end, coming over to East Lansing. How we feeling?
I mean, nothing better for a young quarterback than a tight end he can depend on and is likely comfortable with coming over together from Oregon State. And you see when it feels like young quarterbacks especially really thrive when they have a tight end who on those big plays, those 3rd and 5+ type plays, have a guy they can depend on. And when it's a tight end, you can get the ball up in the middle of maybe easier throws, good matchups. It really does help an offense.
It's a safety blanket. And we always say, well, one of the best friends for a quarterback is a tight end that's going to get open in those short intermediate route trees over the middle of the field. And I mean, specifically for this Michigan State offense, formerly known as the Oregon State offense, the tight ends are a central part in this offense. You're going to see a lot of 12 personnel, sometimes even 13 personnel, and they're going to use their tight ends as matchup nightmares, as offensive weapons, right? You've seen a laundry list of Oregon State tight ends have a ton of success and a ton of production, Jack Velling being one of them in 2023. You're talking about a guy that led the nation in touchdown passes, taught 29 balls for 438 yards, 8 touchdowns. In this offense, you're going to use a lot of tight ends. And if you want to centrally or kind of center your offense around tight ends, having a difference maker like Jack Velling is going to be absolutely massive.
Yeah, especially for a team that I think if you watch Jonathan Smith at Oregon State, he wanted to be physical and be able to run the football.
Yes.
So have a guy you can block, who can get out and play action. I mean, he really does fit what Jonathan Smith wants to do. And again, we talk about when you have to suffer growing pains, if you will, for these teams and new coaches coming into a new scheme and new players, to have one of the guys who is your guy, who is recruited to play in the way you want to play, I think is huge, especially when you're trying to bring up a young quarterback and change a culture on offense that was really, really weak last year.
And I actually you got two guys, right? Aiden Childs, Jack Velling, two central parts of that Oregon State program in 2023 coming over to East Lansing is massive. And you said it best. Jonathan Smith is trying to change the culture of this program and specifically on the offensive side of the football, running the football and having tight ends who can block and then be matchup nightmares in the passing game is absolutely massive. And Dill, we've been talking about one of the things that Michigan State, especially as some of these guys have left in the transfer portal, is they got to get some pass catchers for Aiden Childs. And they go out and get another guy in TJ Sheffield, who, as Big Ten fans, we've seen a lot of TJ Sheffield over the years. This was a guy that was thought to be a potential NFL draft pick heading into this year, struggled with some injuries, struggled with some really bad quarterback play at Purdue, getting a veteran slot receiver in TJ Sheffield, who's been extremely productive during his time in the Big Ten, to come in and be a weapon for Aiden Childs. Massive get as well.
In another guy who, again, not wildly explosive, but dependable and does a good job working out of the slot, which, again, another position that is very helpful for young guys when they can give you easy throws by just winning on routes. And that's something I think TJ Sheffield should be able to give them, as they probably look to complement him with some guys who can hit bigger plays and get over the top and some other things later on in this portal cycle.
I mean, you're talking about a 6-year senior who took 684 snaps in the slot. Some of the things that I like about TJ Sheffield that I feel like you're not going to hear a lot about is, one, really good after the catch. I mean, on 32 receptions last year, forced 11 missed tackles. Like, this guy's making people miss after the catch. And again, you talk about getting a young quarterback confident, him being able to kind of check it down or kind of work those short intermediate routes where you're kind of in routine, and then you can have a wide receiver turn that into explosive play is huge. And then you look at the dependability. I mean, one, a veteran guy that's produced for years at the Big Ten level, one drop last year. And this is a guy that catches everything. He's going to create separation, get open, make people miss, kind of checking off all the boxes. Is this guy going to be an All-American wide receiver? No. But that's not really what Michigan State and this offense needs. They need some dependable wide receivers who are going to be consistent game in, game out. And that's exactly what you're getting with TJ Sheffield here.
Yeah, and again, just kind of adding to the tool chest in something they sorely needed, whether or not it was Jonathan Smith, whatever coach came in, they needed to overturn this roster. I don't think it's bad that you're seeing some wide receivers leaving the portal, because you need some new blood. You need something different at the end of the day in this room.
And one thing I'll say, and this we can talk about this a little bit more after we talk about the last commitment, is I think Jonathan Smith is doing a good job keeping the guys who should be kept. Like, there are talking with my buddy who's the Michigan State fan, saying, yeah, a lot of these guys hitting the portal, like, I mean, and respectfully, of course, is like not going to miss them too much. Like, those guys were not necessarily getting it done at Michigan State. So the guys that they needed to keep in this roster, I think, are largely staying at Michigan State. And the guys that maybe you could miss, like, that's okay. Now, the last guy we want to talk about here, and this is another just absolutely loving the idea of just getting proven starters at the Power 5 level to come to East Lansing. Jordan Turner, another kind of culture guy. This is a guy that's been extremely productive at Wisconsin in 2023, 61 tackles, 6.5 TFLs, hammer against the run. When you talk about changing the culture of the defense, specifically in that front seven where there's some talent, but you want to be able to stop the run a little bit more, 25 run stops in 2023. And Dale, you know the number I always look at, average depth of tackle at the linebacker spot, 2.5 yards down the field. Like, what does that tell you? He's playing in front. I mean, he's playing kind of forward. He's trying to make his plays at or behind the line of scrimmage, and that's kind of what you want in this Big Ten conference.
And a perfect guy to run with Jordan Hall as he kind of develops into what you think is very much a future pro. It's pairing him up with a veteran who's played so much football at such a high level and has that right type of attitude, like exactly what you're saying, hard-nosed, physical, good athlete, can go sideline to sideline. Like, that's what you want Hall to be, maybe with a bit higher upside. And to pair him up, I think it's a perfect fit, because, again, you looking at this Michigan State defense, it's really young, very talented. I think more talented than people kind of would give it credit for, but young, to bring a guy who's a very much proven veteran leader from a team at Wisconsin. That defense is always that's never been the problem.
They've played some good football on the defensive side of the ball up in Madison, Wisconsin. So you're getting kind of one of the leaders to come in and kind of help get, you said it best, right? A veteran presence at that off-ball linebacker spot to supplement a youthful team, but a very talented team. And I like how Jordan Hall and, Jordan Turner kind of balance each other out, right? Jordan Hall, hyper athlete, right? In terms of going sideline to sideline. Jordan Turner can do all that stuff too, but he's much more of a box back. Really. He's going to stack and shed some blocks. He's going to play downhill. And I like the balance that you have with Jordan Hall and Jordan Turner. This is nice. And you're feeling good about it. You take a look at the 4 additions Michigan State has made in the portal, right? Aiden Childs, like super high upside quarterback that's already shown that he can play at the Power 5 level, going to be the future quarterback of that program for the next couple of years. You go get his favorite target from Oregon State and Jack Velling, who's caught 8 touchdowns in 2023. You go get a veteran wide receiver who's made it happen at the Big Ten level. Then you go get a veteran off-ball linebacker who, again, has made it happen at the Big Ten level. You look at Michigan State, and again, we're not only worried about the 2024 year, but it is going to seemingly get off to a good start if they can continue to add these guys that, again, have played good football at the Power 5 level.
And that'll be nice to hit the ground running and get these guys used to maybe winning a little. Like some of these young guys on defense who, they haven't won a whole lot in the last couple of years, especially last year. It'll be nice to kind of change that around and get them used to winning, which is the nice thing about the portal. I know people like to complain about certain elements of it, but it gives these new coaches a much better chance to flip the culture around immediately and get off to a good start rather than having to drag through a couple of years of pain. I think you can, and you're seeing it with guys like Jonathan Smith, who are proven coaches, proven developers. They don't have that hard of a time attracting talent to them because those guys know that this is a program that I can get better at. Well, win, lose, whatever, they know they'll get better under Jonathan Smith.
The last question for you, we'll sign off here. One position group that you would like to see Michigan State get active in for the transfer portal? Putting you on the spot. We didn't talk about this pre-show.
There is no doubt in my mind it's the offensive line. I think that probably needs 4 more new starters, frankly, at least. It's a unit that, again, when D'Antonio had this program cooking, they always played really physical up front and were really, really good there. You haven't seen that in the last couple of years. In with Jonathan Smith, you've seen how good those offensive lines were at Oregon State. I think that's going to be huge.
That's where it's going to be built. Like, you look at Jonathan Smith and why he had so much success. And that's probably, like, largely, if you're excited about this Michigan State program under Jonathan Smith, it's going to be in the trenches, specifically that offensive line. It's going to get right. And he brings over his whole coaching staff, which you feel really good about because the development, whatever they were doing in Corvallis, feeding them boys, was working. And so you're bringing that operation to East Lansing with a ton more resources. It's going to happen. And I mean, you said 4 new offensive linemen. I probably wouldn't be surprised if that was the number. I wonder if you can kind of work with some of these Michigan State offensive linemen who are already in. I mean, again, you're looking at one of the better offensive line coaches getting to work with this young crop of groups. Like, I think they can get better. Like, you're going to see some development. The strength and conditioning is going to turn around. The on-field play and coaching is going to turn around. So if you're Michigan State, like, there's one thing that you can really count on is this offensive line getting right. And you have a good running back. You're getting some playmakers. You obviously have a really talented quarterback. Things are trending up in East Lansing. The boys are fired up. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.